Welcome to High Infidelity, the best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let's get into the video.
My wife, 62 female, and I, 62 male. Divorced 12 years ago after 36 years of marriage and raising 2 wonderful children. I later learned she had cheated. Ex-wife now wants us to date again. Should I? Does this ever work? Part 2. She acquired a wonderful apartment closer to her workplace, and I assisted her in finding it, as well as renting a truck and assisting her in moving in. She grabbed most of the furniture and kitchen items since that was her thing, and I took all of the tools, equipment, and electronics because that was mine. I'm the sort of homeowner who purchased a smaller property on a forested area just outside of town so my dog could run around outside. That puppy was my favorite. He was my dearest buddy and comforted me through those difficult days. I still carry his ashes on my mantle and thank him with a nod on a regular basis. I also thank my human pals, both men and women, for their help through some difficult times. They checked in on me and made sure I wasn't going through this alone, as did my children. In addition, my recently bought home and land required some care, which I liked doing as a diversion, and my friends and son assisted me on many nights and weekends. Keeping the fridge supplied with beers was my labor expense. In addition, the wife of a friend and a female coworker both assisted me in selecting furniture, decorating, and acquiring all of the necessities, and I made certain that they had bottles of high-end wine. They were all excellent. I was able to extend my break for another 2 months. I felt emptiness, hopelessness, and a lack of direction. The divorce was particularly difficult for the children. We didn't speak about it much at the time, other than them checking to see if I was okay. They both seemed to blame their mother for everything. My son declined to assist his mother in moving into her new apartment. For a few months, our daughter refused to talk to her and was chilly to her for many years. That probably affected my ex-wife the most since they had become closest friends and chatted almost every day after our daughter went out on her own. I believed that was normal since it was their mother, not me, who wanted the divorce, and they could see my anguish. 6 months after the divorce, our lovely, intelligent daughter was to marry her long-term fiancé. They had our enthusiastic approval since he was a truly nice man with a wonderful future. This had been planned for a long time before the divorce. Our daughter's baccalaureate party was held at a nearby hotel conference room so that everyone could rent rooms and relax during the party knowing they wouldn't have to travel home. I, along with several of her relatives, aunts and uncles, as well as all of her friends, including some male friends, were all invited. How many fathers attend their daughter's baccalaureate party? It was fantastic, and everyone had a terrific time. There was a DJ, dancing, and some jokes, but nothing out of the ordinary, such as male strippers or anything. Worst of all, her BFF handed her a packet of granny underwear and told her she had to get rid of her attractive thumbs right now. She and I both reddened, but it was all in good humor. Our daughter did not invite her mother, which irritated her greatly. After the divorce, my ex and I remained friends, and we frequently texted. She even asked me to her apartment for dinner a number of times, and I eagerly accepted each invitation. But it was like walking on eggshells. What I was after all the anguish she had given me. Ex expressed her disappointment and upset at not being invited to the baccalaureate party, and she even contacted me many times that night to check how things were going. I wasn't quite over her, but I was getting there. I wanted her to discover whatever she was lacking in her life now that the anguish was no longer relentless. I understand now that I was still hoping she'd come back to me when she discovered it, and I'll confess that I would have welcomed her back in a heartbeat at that moment. Again, 34 years is a significant amount of time. After the guests had all gone to their rooms or the hotel bar, my daughter reclined on the sofa next to me in front of the fireplace with her head on my shoulder, and we drank wonderful scotch and reminisced about many pleasant moments until the small hours of the morning. We both laughed and sobbed. It was ideal, and I didn't want the night to come to an end. We were getting a little sentimental at the end, and my daughter eventually brought up the divorce. We hadn't actually spoken about it much before, save for practicalities, never the emotional stuff. To paraphrase, I asked my daughter, as a woman, what it was like to live with me, knowing that I was far from flawless. I knew it was a risky question, but after the divorce, I couldn't help myself. She said that I might be passionate and had high expectations at times. They were all concerned about disappointing me. With a laugh, she stated that she, her brother, and even Mom used to call me Sergeant Dad or the Sergeant, but they knew I loved and protected them and would always be there for them. I told her that I knew I wasn't the most emotional man, but I cared even if I didn't express it. She was aware and said that she could only hope that her new husband would be as excellent a husband and parent as I am, and that she prayed I might find someone who makes me really happy and who would not cheat like Mom. Wait, what? She saw my expression and exclaimed, "Oh my God, you have no idea. That's why you two divorced," I assumed. "Mom didn't tell you." My daughter was aware that my wife had strayed on another guy prior to our divorce and assumed they were still seeing one other. I was taken aback. I questioned her why she hadn't told me earlier, and she responded she believed I already knew more than she did, which is why I divorced Mom, as did everyone else. She was in tears when she told me it was a very horrible moment, and she purposefully skirted the matter with me other than to make sure I was okay. I held her and told her she was my little child and that she would always be there for me. When I asked her when and for how long, she said she didn't know for sure, but guessed it began around a month before Mom discussed divorce. I inquired whether her brother was aware, and she answered yes, they had discussed it many times. In reality, he was the one who performed some social media investigation and thought that someone else was involved. Children are very perceptive. That's why, amid all of this, my children were chilly to their mother while being sympathetic to me. That night, my perspective on my ex-wife changed forever. I had been as cordial as I could manage during the divorce process, but now I wasn't sure how to behave. My thoughts were racing, and I didn't get much sleep that night. She had never shown any signs of an affair and still didn't, but in retrospect, she had been getting her hair and nails done more frequently, her legs and other areas more frequently, buying nicer clothes, taking longer to find just the right outfit some mornings, and spending more time on eye makeup. She didn't wear much makeup. At the time, I believed it was because she was an empty nester or trying to keep up with the younger ladies at her work. She was going to turn 50, which I'm sure troubled her. Also, she was working longer hours and on weekends, and she sometimes traveled to see customers, but she had a lot of duties at work, so I believed it was essential. The truth was that she wasn't seeking for more in her life. She had already found it, and it was another guy. As bad as her rejection had been, this treachery was even worse. My world had crumbled again. My daughter took her laptop to the lobby the following morning and showed me OM Facebook page and other websites. This person turns out to be an executive for a customer of hers, one of X's most substantial accounts. "He's not awful looking, but not quite as good as you, Dad," Mom traded down, my daughter conceded. It's difficult to hear your daughter say things like that. He was a widower with an adult daughter. There were no images of my ex, and her name was never mentioned, but his posts hinted that he was in love with a recent divorcee who sounded just like my ex-wife. On my ex-birthday, Wifesy remembered her likes and dislikes and wished her a happy birthday. My daughter said that Mom erased her own Facebook and Instagram accounts sometime after the divorce, so there was nothing to view from her side. My ex-wife was instantly ignored, ghosted. She didn't respond to messages and didn't return phone calls or emails, even from friends. The wife's closest friend who promised to find out more never got back to me, implying that she either knew at the time or afterwards and was hiding her ex's secret. My ex and I both went to our daughter's wedding the next weekend. I had progressed from shock and numbness to rage over the course of the week. In addition, my daughter said that there would be no rehearsal or rehearsal dinner, nor would there be a receiving line after the ceremony. I believe she did it for me. In any event, the wedding was my first point of contact with the ex after discovering the truth. I had shed over 20 pounds as a result of the stress and increased exercises over the previous months and thought I looked excellent in my fitted suit as I proudly carried my daughter down the aisle. I didn't say anything to her after I gave the bride away and turned to sit next to my ex in our reserved seats up front. She looked absolutely stunning in a tight black dress and heels with her hair all put up. red lipstick and dark hose, everything she knew I liked, but I didn't say anything to her. I was furious that she had duped me, and all I could see was her with OM. During the vows, she attempted to take my hand in hers, but I gently yanked it away. I also repositioned slightly so that our thighs and shoulders didn't come into contact. I'm not sure why she was crying at the conclusion of the ceremony or what was going through her mind. I got up and left her sitting there as we went to go take wedding photos. Because I didn't, the ushers had to accompany her out. I know, it was a heinous thing to do, but it was all so fresh and raw and seemed so perfect at the time. Stay tuned for the next part.